With week one complete, it's now time to give my reaction to the NFL start to the season. And starting with the first game of the season on Thursday night, the Ravens and Chiefs in Kansas City. A good game to start the week. Chiefs offense looked very good. All those new players on offense, as expected, performed very well, especially Xavier Worthy, 2 touchdowns in the win. This Chiefs team, they're going to be very dangerous as long as they can stay healthy. Ravens, questionable start to the season. They looked very good in that first drive, scored a touchdown, made things look competitive. The game was competitive, but overall that offense didn't look nearly as good as it did on that first drive. I think the Ravens, not much to worry about, but at the same time, can they look like they did on that first drive, or it's going to look like they did in the rest of that game, which is a little more inconsistent. At the same time, it came down to just a few inches at the end, whether that touchdown was actually a touchdown or not, and would have gave them a chance to win, maybe in overtime. But ultimately, the Chiefs won. A good game from the Chiefs, obviously. But if you're the Ravens, you look for some improvement, obviously, but overall, good game from them. Then with the Eagles and Packers, the Eagles looked very good. Definitely looked to be better than they did at the end of last season, which is all you can really hope for in week one after how disappointing it was at the end of last season. Saquon Barkley looks like he's adjusted really well already to Philadelphia after leaving the New York Giants. So that's a good sign for this Eagles team. For this Packers team, they also played very well, very competitive. Hopefully Jordan Love's okay. That injury was sad to see at the end of the game. It only looks like he'll be out a couple weeks, though, but that could still affect this team for sure in these next couple of games, but he should be back somewhat soon. But overall, a good game for both teams. The field in Brazil wasn't great, so that obviously affected the game a little bit too. But overall, a good game from both teams. But can the Eagles keep this going? Can Saquon Barkley keep this going? Now we just have to find out. So now the Saints and Panthers. This was a rough one. When your first play of the season is a pick, it's not always a good sign. So the Panthers, I thought they could improve the season. I thought they could at least be better. But clearly there's a lot of issues they still have to work out. Bryce Young, he didn't look comfortable. Didn't really look to improve that much, at least not compared to last season. The Panthers team overall, the pass rush really struggled. The defense overall struggled. So not a lot to be optimistic about if you're a Panthers fan. Just overall, the team just couldn't get off the field on defensively. Then offensively, just struggled to really do much of anything. So, this Panthers team, I thought they could at least maybe win a few more games, but it might just be very similar to last season where they struggled to win many games at all. The Saints, I think at the same time, they played well, but at the same time, it's against the Panthers, so it's not as impressive. But now we just have to see if they can keep this up against a better team. So overall, just a bad game for the Panthers. And can New Orleans keep this up? We have to see. And Sam Darnold looked very good for the Vikings. Very impressive in his first game with Minnesota. The Giants, I thought they could win this one at home to start the season, but clearly not. The Vikings, they look very impressive considering their kind of a bad offseason with a lot of injuries. So, good win for the Vikings here. Then the Patriots, they actually won this game. They were the biggest underdogs of the weekend, and they somehow found a way to win. Great start to draw Mayo's head coaching job in New England. So, great win for the Patriots. The Bengals, I don't think this is the end of the world for them, though. They didn't know Jamar Chase was going to play until very recently. Joe Burrow, getting used to him being back after the injury last season. They don't have Joe Mixon anymore. So they're still kind of figuring things out on offense. And the defense, they played pretty well. 16 points is usually enough. So offensively, they got to figure things out. But great win for the Patriots, obviously. They were able to run the ball well, which is all you can really hope for on a week 1 game. So great win for them. In Cincinnati, I don't think this is the end of the world for them. But obviously, you'd like to see more. Then the Falcons and Steelers. I thought this game would be, maybe more entertaining. Ends up being just 6 field goals that win it for Pittsburgh. But overall, Kirk Cousins looked pretty uncomfortable for the Falcons. Didn't really look like he's adjusted as well to his new team as players like Saquon Barkley have in Philadelphia. So kind of a rough game for Atlanta. I think they'll figure it out, but in this one, not as much. So it's kind of disappointing for this Falcons team. But Pittsburgh, pretty good start to this kind of new season. Justin Fields, he looked solid. Could have been better, but overall pretty good from him. And now we just have to see how Russell Wilson does with this new team. Then the Colts, I thought they could win this one. Or my pick to win this one at home, but obviously the Texans had other ideas. Close game, but I thought both Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud both played well. This is one of those games where there's not too much negatives about either team. So I think the Texans, obviously Stephon Diggs got a touchdown, so that's good to see for him in his first game with the Texans. So a good game for Houston. The Colts, good game for them as well. So, these week 1 games, it's still kind of figuring things out. So then the Bills beat the Cardinals by 6. This one, I thought this one would be close just because the Cardinals always play these good teams close for some reason. And it was. In the end, the Bills found a way to win. So good for them. Josh Allen made the difference. And overall, this Bills team, they didn't look as good as they maybe did last year. This next Thursday night game against Miami, that will kind of tell us a lot about how good this team really is. But at the end of the day, Arizona, Kyler Murray, he looked good in the game. But overall, wasn't enough to ultimately beat Buffalo. Then Chicago and Tennessee. This was a weird game because this Bears defense, Bears special teams was the deciding factor in this one. Tennessee, it looked to be in control most of the game. Then the Bears somehow found a way to win. I believe they're down 17-0 at one point, and they found a way to come back and win it. So good win for them. Caleb Williams gets the win in his debut. I believe he's the first overall quarterback to get a win in his first game in over 2 decades. So that's good to see. Not the best debut for sure, but gets the win. This Bears team really struggled to get this win, but they did it. And Tennessee, definitely kind of a disappointing loss, though. They should have won this game probably, but it's week 1. They'll figure it out. Miami comes back to get the win against Jacksonville. This offense did not look good to start the game. They figured it out, though, by the end. Tyreek Hill gets a touchdown in this one. So good win for Miami. Then Seahawks beat the Broncos. Bo Nix really struggled in this one. 2 picks, I believe. Normally, you'd give a lot more criticism, but it is his first game. Normally, a rookie quarterback doesn't really start unless they're, a top 5 pick. Bo Nix, I don't think he was even I'm pretty sure he wasn't even a top 10 pick. So for him to be starting week 1 going into Seattle, how difficult a place that is to play. And he gets a pretty good defense with the Seahawks. I can't be too critical of him. So definitely a rough game from him, but I think he'll slowly adjust to the NFL. And this Broncos team in general, not a terrible game from them, but I just think the Seahawks are the better team. They play the better game. Then the Raiders and Chargers in LA. Jim Harbaugh gets his first win as the head coach of the Chargers, so good for him. And this Chargers team gets a much needed win after a very disappointing season. And then for the Raiders, it's not what you want to see. Had at least a little bit of momentum last year. Seemed to kind of change the feeling around this Raiders team, but this is not a great way to keep that going with a loss here in Los Angeles. The Cowboys beat the Browns pretty comfortably. This is a great thing to see if you're a Cowboys fan. They looked very good in this one. Dak, CeeDee Lamb looked good in this one. This Cowboys team in general looked good, especially after Dak got paid finally. So can they keep this going? I don't know, but this Cowboys team, good start to their season. And then for Cleveland, very bad start to their season. A lot of questions whether they could get back to the playoffs after such a crazy end of last season where Joe Flacco ends up getting the playoffs. Deshaun Watson didn't look great in this one. Could he figure it out later on in the season? I'm sure he can, but not a great way to start his season after a pretty disappointing performance in this game. Then the Commanders and Buccaneers. I thought the Commanders would do much better. Jane Daniels, I thought he and his experience, having played in LSU in Arizona State for at the college level for many years, would help him in this one, help him quickly adjust the NFL level, even more than Bo Nix. But clearly not, and the Buccaneers took care of this one pretty easily. So I think this team just needs a little bit more time. Buccaneers, obviously, they're in a really good spot right now as a team, as a franchise. Having just made it to the playoffs, having gotten that win, played really close in Detroit last year, and they got this win pretty comfortably. It will be interesting to see how the division ends up going between the Falcons and Buccaneers. Then at the end of the Sunday games was the Sunday night game between the Rams and Lions in Detroit. Lions, a very good team. They're my pick to win the Super Bowl. Then the Rams, obviously, a very good team also. And there's a little extra motivation added in between both these teams, considering their history, with Stafford being the former Lions quarterback and Goff the former Rams quarterback. Good game between these two teams. Good win for the Lions. Not much to say about this one. Both teams I expect to make the playoffs. Then finally on Monday night, Aaron Rodgers makes his return with the New York Jets. Good to see him back. He finally makes his return to the NFL. And a good game from the 49ers. They get this win after a very heartbreaking Super Bowl loss. So not too much to say here. I thought the Jets, while there's definitely some improvements that can be made, they went against a better team. And I thought they could have played better, but still, it's earlier in the season. They're still figuring things out. As always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.